the savings we occurred. If a person had permanent impairment of 11.8%, which was the average of the 25% most injured workers, they would get longer-term benefits. But we helped that from 11.8 to 18. Where were the savings? The workers' comp system is supposed to be a balanced thing between business and its employees. If that's making progress, it's making progress on working men and women's back, on working men and women's livelihood. And that's not progress to me. One good thing they did last year, and I will say this, there was a couple things, and I'm not opposed to someone trying to continue to work if they have permanent impairment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at one of them. I've had a disc removed from my neck, I've had my neck fused, I've had 2 shoulder surgeries and 2 knee surgeries. And believe it or not, I'm still working. Mr. President, can you believe that? I am over the 11.8% permanent impairment rating, and I'm still working. You want to know why I'm still working? It's because if I wasn't working, I would be getting about 60% less to live on than I'm accustomed to living on. And if you think living on narcotics and sleeping pills every single day of your life, all day long, is living, well, it's not. There are those that I know in my workplace, and I named off 9 of them last time, that are way worse off than I am, and I consider myself blessed because my surgeries have worked relatively well. If I got hurt in New Hampshire or somewhere else in New England, I would get not $700 per week, I would get between $1,150 and $1,400 a week. My friend Roland, that works on my crew, had a little small personnel carrier, sort of like a golf cart below the top. Was working on it. That's what he does for a job. Somehow that thing slipped off and come and almost ripped his leg and kneecap and knee off. Well, Roland was one of those guys, rare guys, that was willing to work about 100 hours a week. Works in a paper mill, one of the higher priced jobs. Made about $2,200 a week. Roland's now living on, and he got hurt prior to January 1st. So now he's working on about living on $668 a week. And you say to yourself, and he's had massive knee surgeries, his leg is about 4 inches shorter. He's living on painkillers. He goes to work. Actually, he came back to work after about 5 months. His doctor says, we don't really want you going back. But if you're used to making $2,200 a week and you're living on $668, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's progress. But I know Roland isn't, because he went back to work early. And what happens when you go back to work early? He wanted to work 2 hours a week or 4 hours a week. He had problems, had to go back up. That's one person. His life has changed forever. I had one situation in my mill. I was so lucky. I blew my shoulder out, and I'm down first aid in a chiropractor, which is a thing that puts it on and puts cold water on your shoulder. The assistant mill manager, they had a little curtain drawn so no one could see me. The assistant mill manager comes into the mill and says to the nurse, he says, "Where's Big Ed? What's going on with Big Ed?" Ed had to be 6'6", weighed about 240 pounds. Being that big, if you're a maintenance mechanic and bending over, chances are there's a possibility you could get strained muscles. I'm sitting there listening to this whole thing behind the screen, and the nurse didn't say, "Shh, there's a worker all behind there." So the assistant mill manager says, "What's wrong with him?" I said, "Well, he hurt his back." He said, "Let's get him down here, lay him on the table, I'll open him up with a chainsaw, see if there's anything wrong with him." This is my testimony on the last session. You can look it up. I got up off there with that bucket of ice and come crawling out. I go, He took a look at me and took off. And I said back then, that's what we're dealing with. senator who's from Cumberland and other good employers, but you do have those senior employers that feel that way, that no matter how bad you're injured, you're a detriment. Well, I think a lot of us went to the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Institute up in Bethel this year. They asked us all kinds of questions about everything. Well, one of the issues I wanted to turn it around on them, and I says, ladies and gentlemen, businessmen, I says, what is your greatest asset? You know what every one of them said? Their employees. Every one of them said their employees. Not one of them said they were a detriment or they were injured, but their employees are the greatest asset. And if we say it's progress by changing laws around that take away from one side and give it to the other. Ladies and gentlemen, back in 1992, there were 2 workers' comp carriers in the state of Maine. That's a state of unhealthiness in the state. Well, how many do we have now? 20? 30? We have probably 100, 150, 200 of them. Because it is that lucrative to come to Maine to get some money off the back of those injured workers. And that's what we're trying to change in this. We're giving back the same thing that was actually offered up as a compromise. This isn't our invention. This was what was given last year as a compromise to us. A compromise that I'm not even satisfied with because it doesn't, I don't think it's fair to workers, but it's nowhere near as half as bad as going after 25% permanent payment and selling for 18 when it was 11.8. My math isn't very good, but I still think the workers took it on the chin. If you figure the things that we did give them by making them have a work search, it's worth it. About a $40 increase in their weekly wages when New England states pay about $500 more. I don't know. I